Good day everyone, this is Patrick from EasyFX Code Trading System, and this is Sunday 9th of February 2020, and this is the weekly analysis for Euro, Cable and the Aussie dollar for the second week of February. Let's begin with the Euro dollar, and as you can see, the Euro has been weakening since the start of the week and month of February, and it has fallen below the previous swing low back at the end of November last year, and now is close below the 110 level and heading towards the next key round figure at 109.00. The weekly S3 for last week is at the 109.23 level, and that's the intermediate support level. So now the 110 level is now a resistance zone. We'll see how far it will dip lower at the start of next week before it starts to recover somewhat and perhaps consolidate before dipping lower and targeting the 109. There could be a bear flag of some kind before it falls lower. And for this week, there's only a couple of key events for the Eurozone. On Thursday, there's the EU economic forecast, and on Friday, there's the German preliminary GDP figure. So those are only two key events for the Eurozone. Whereas on the US side, there's a couple of key economic news with the CPI figure on Thursday and retail sales on Friday, but also a couple of days of Fed Chair Powell's testimony, and that's on Tuesday and Wednesday. So we'll see whether there's any impact on the US dollar side. So, but from this view, there is a risk-off sentiment in the markets, and that's why it's been dipping lower. The U.S. non-farm payroll report came out slightly mixed, but fairly good in terms of jobs creation, and that boosted the US dollar for the short term. And at the same time, there's also market fears as we head into the weekend on the spread of the novel coronavirus epidemic, especially in the rate of growth in China. So there's some profit taking before the weekend, whereas the markets were recovering at the beginning of the week, but now it has started to take profit and consolidate before the weekend, and perhaps any potential weekend gaps for the start of next week. All right, let's move over to sterling and the cable. Similarly for the cable, after breaking down below the 130 support level and the lower triangle trend line, it has continued lower over the last couple of days, and the key driver as well is on fears on the trade negotiations between UK and the EU, and this has driven it lower below the 129 level now, and targeting the daily 200 EMA at 128.38, followed below that with a key support zone at the 128.00. But this is a clear break of support on Thursday. Even though on the PMIs, the final services PMI on Wednesday was actually better than expected, but the general sentiment is on the weaker side as the tough stance between from the Eurozone in the trade start of the trade negotiations has been bringing fear to the sterling. Right, this week there's only the preliminary GDP figures and manufacturing production figures on Tuesday, and as well later that night the Bank of England's Carney is going to testify as well, and that's the only key event for the week, and it's all on Tuesday. So we'll see how this progresses next week, and whether it's going to reach the 128 level. Right, let's move on to the Aussie dollar, and as well the Aussie dollar, after recovering early in the week from fears of the coronavirus spread, gains have been given back up, and it has fallen back into the support zone right at the 0.6670 area, and also identify this as a resistance zone now. So this is at the critical level of support, and for the week it's looks like a bearish looking, almost a gravestone doji. So we'll see whether there's any consolidation at the start of the week, and if it does break, then we'll be looking at a new low for the Aussie dollar, multi-year low, and we'll see whether it's able to find support at the 0.6650 40 to 50 zone. All right, last Friday the RBA released their monetary policy statement, and they did cut the growth forecast, so which is why it also weakened the Aussie dollar. And of course, with fears on the coronavirus spread in China, that impact the Australian market as well. Right, we'll see how the impact of over the weekend is going to be, and how bad the spread is going to be over the weekend, and that may set the tone for the Aussie dollar for next week, as there's no economic news scheduled for the whole of next week, and it will also be exposed to US news and the how the US dollar responds. Alright, so meanwhile, do check out my other videos on the weekly Ichimoku analysis on Euro and Cable, and as well as spot gold and dollar yen on the safe haven trades. Alright, Have a good trading week, and we'll follow up on midweek Wednesday. And cheers.